The sun has left and forgotten me.
Your stories don't define you, but how you tell them will. Hi, I'm Sarah Elkins, your host and chief story maker at Elkins Consulting. I call myself a story maker because I know that if you truly want to tell the best stories, if you really want to connect with people around you, your behavior, your actions have to be in alignment with the values and the things that you want people to know about you. So if you want to be known as a considerate human being, pick up after your dog. That's what I mean by story maker. And today, guests, you are in for such a treat. I am interviewing my friend LaJean Lawson that I met in Butte, Montana years ago. I can't even remember. It has to be at least 5 years ago, probably more. And I saw a message from a friend from the Butte area saying that there was a woman living in Butte that was doing research for sports bras. And she needed somebody with basically my dimensions to come and test out a handful of sports bras. And I thought that would be really cool. I'd love to contribute to research in any way that I can, particularly women's research specifically for women's bodies. And I arrived and was so overwhelmed by the engineering, the science, the research that I was experiencing, and this woman behind the computer, behind the cameras, measuring how my body bounced with every step of running or walking. And I am so eager for you to hear her story. So listeners, just so that you know, very recently, there was an article published in Runner's World magazine where LaJean's research was highlighted and her long experience from the 70s in researching women's bodies, particularly women's athletes and breasts. And they actually reached out to me because LaJean put the author in touch with me to ask about my experience with sports bras. And LaJean gave her my name, which I'm forever grateful. And listeners, go to Apple News, go to Runner's World, check out this article. I can't remember exactly the title, but it's basically the most influential piece of athletic equipment for women's athletes. So, LaJean, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, Sarah, thank you for inviting me. And in addition to LaJean, I also go by Dr. Sports Bra. So certainly that defines my path, my journey, my passion, my evolution as a scientist. And I will have to say, I wouldn't know what I know just based on my experience. It really is the voices and the input from, at this point in time, thousands of women who have taught me about sports bras. So, yeah, I'm kind of the grand mistress, but it is testers, wear testers like you who are willing to come into the lab, take off their shirt, and let me document through my data collection system what is going on with different sports bras.
That is so great. What I remember was how you had me jogging in a variety of bras and you had these sensors attached to my breasts, up above them, on them, below them to see the actual movement. Did they kind of bounce in circles? Did they bounce up and down? Did they bounce left and right? And I was immediately thinking about hopefully our listeners are laughing along with us because this is funny. I was thinking about my dog's tail because when he's really happy, it goes in a big windmill circle. Yeah. And when he's excited for dinner or lunch or breakfast, he sits on the floor and his tail wags flat against the floor. And that's what I think about when I think about those sensors and what they were measuring.
Yeah. And I'm lucky even now to have such a state-of-the-art system, which is based on bouncing infrared light off of these retroreflective markers, the same that we use in 3D animation on the whole entertainment side. That's a whole application for these kind of cameras. I work on the biological side, so my software and even the software I've had custom built you can be running on the treadmill, stop the trial, and my system will process and immediately tell me how your breasts are moving relative to the rest of your chest. So, a long journey for me, just celebrating 40 years since my first project at Utah State University, which was using just regular movie cameras from Hollywood, very labor intensive hours to actually input 2 or 3 seconds of data at 100 frames per second. So over the 40 years, in addition to seeing bras changed, I've been able to see the technology change, the ability to really learn not only about sports bras, but many aspects of the female athlete, how our movement patterns, our skeletons, the geometry of our bodies has a really significant effect on our outcomes and how we respond to that, treat that, how we design product, whether it's a sports bra or a shoe or a running tight.
Right. And it makes so much sense. So let's back up a little bit, because I love to start, and this is going to be especially important with our conversation. I love to start by asking my guests if they have something they can share about themselves that most people don't know about you. So after reading this Runner's World article, I learned a lot more about you than I knew before. But so maybe it's something that other people haven't heard because they haven't read the article. But do you have something you could share with us? And the reason I ask that is we often get kind of siloed or frozen or anchored in time based on one part of our lives, one aspect of our lives, either through a moment in time on social media or living in one place for a long time and people think they know you. But this gives us an opportunity to hear more about the complexity of who you are.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm going to talk about what I did this weekend, which was doing a ceramic tile backsplash in my kitchen and dining room area. We met, when we met in Butte, was renovating a home there. I grew up working on home projects with my dad, and that's something I absolutely love and have a fair amount of proficiency doing various things. The house and studio I'm in now, which I purchased almost 2 years ago, required electrical work. That's something I've shied away from. I went to community college, took a basic home wiring class, and I'm not saying I'm proficient there, but I'm not scared of getting shocked anymore. And I've done work. So I think that or working on cars that, with my dad, or even now doing things that I so love and respect the trades. And I try to do a project every year, especially like in really hot or really cold weather, because what that does is raises my awareness and appreciation for the people in our lives that do these things all around the calendar, don't have a choice but to be out fixing the sewer pipe or the street. So I think that's something that, people will look and see my academic credential. Oh, she has a PhD. Maybe she's just, kind of just a not very practical person. So I'm so proud of that side of myself.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, I especially love that because we share that in common, those projects, being handy and choosing to take on those projects that are uncomfortable for us. Thank you for sharing that, because that definitely contributes to your complexity. And I do remember walking into that house and everything was under construction. And I get it, because our house was built in 1890 and we've done a lot of projects on it ourselves. Yep. So I was taken by your first story in the Runner's World article about the special award you received after you had done your thesis for your PhD. That was for your PhD, right?
Yeah, that was my master's work.
That was your master's. Okay. Yeah. Tell us a story about that.
So, deciding to do this research with a faculty member there at Utah State, and we realized we would need funding. Almost no research had ever been done on sports bras. We didn't even have a real biomechanist at Utah State. So figuring out how to do the research, what was needed, realizing it was really expensive, we would need funding. So actually submitting a faculty research grant through the university that then would have to be approved in the legislative body of the Utah State Legislature. So we did receive the funding, did the project, which immediately afterwards we published because my co-author was on a tenure track and needed research to be able to get tenure, and almost immediately also out into the popular press. So it did get attention right away. And there was a group in the Utah State Legislature that would scan anything that was funded and say, "Oh man, this is such a waste of taxpayer money," and give this Golden Fleece Award. It was a matter of great pride for us that we received the award. I'm going to say that I actually have here
the Golden Fleece Award. Okay, you're going to hold this up. I'm going to take a screenshot so we can use it for the podcast show notes. Can you hold it up for us?
I have a copy of the letter that was sent that was so negative from this physical therapist in Colorado about the waste of funds. If all we had to do was go out to the track and watch women run, we would know that breast bounce. We didn't need to be spending all of this money. And of course, completely missing the point. We know breasts bounce and we know we need to do something about the bounce. And so there's nothing diagnostic or prescriptive about just observing that women bounce. It's like, what is the nature of the bounce? How do we evaluate products that are currently on the market? How do we improve products so that the breast and the body are moving together with greater comfort and allowing a higher level of performance? And I know that's something that you can speak to as well through your sport life, knowing the challenges of larger breasts and some resolution to that.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So you won this Golden Fleece Award where they said that it was a waste of taxpayer money and all that jazz. What was, when you got that, you said that you were proud to receive it because you knew that you were pushing the right buttons, right? Is that where you were going with that? Tell me what happened right afterward. Did you celebrate? Did somebody offer you more research? Like, what did that generate for you, the notoriety?
Yeah, and having the scientific paper go out, presenting at American College of Sports Medicine, having it go out in Self Magazine. Within about a year, it was picked up by the preeminent at that time sports bra brand Jog Bra, which probably had 90% of the market at that point. And by 1987, 2 years later, I was consulting for this wonderful women-founded, women-led company, I recognize as the first modern sports bra invented in 1977. I continued to consult for Jog Bra, and then when it was acquired by Playtex, became champion. So 37 years, ending at the end of 2021. It did end up with a very long, very positive consulting relationship with a company who believed in supporting research and supporting women. I had a really strong voice in design, in marketing, a lot of PR work. So definitely there was a pent up desire for understanding sports bras, for better sports bras, not only just making product, but guiding women. And then also a testing program that before a champion sports bra would go out to the market, we would do the kind of testing in the lab that you did to confirm the support level, that the bra was going to perform as promised. Now, other brands were doing this sporadically. At Champion, we did it continuously for 37 years. Every season.
Wow. So one of the things that surprised me about the article that I didn't know, you and I, maybe we talked about it, but it was a long time ago and I don't remember. And as LaJean implied, I did have large breasts. For somebody as petite as I am, they were really large. And I actually had breast reduction surgery a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I have never felt more liberated in being able to jog on the mountain behind my house, and which I do sometimes. I'll go running. Usually I like to just hike because I like to actually enjoy it, not be in a hurry. But sometimes I'll jog, and it has absolutely been liberating. Back to the movement of breasts. So you learned that the way they move matters in terms of the outcomes, particularly with runners. But now we're looking at volleyball players and softball players and how that affects their athleticism. Can you speak just a little bit about that and the difference between the two different kinds of sports bras, compression, and what was the other one?
Encapsulation.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us about, because I think most of us don't realize that the bounce really does affect our potential for speed. It's not just comfort.
Yeah. And, I think sports bras are so difficult because I actually ask for perceptual feedback, and I have little posters here on the lab, which you may remember from the other lab. And I ask about support. How supportive did it feel? How comfortable? And that might be chafing. That might be sweating, a lot of things. I also ask about fit on your body. I also ask about style. Do you like the style or not? It can be the best sports bra in the world, but if it's really ugly, not going to wear it. And then modesty, which does it attract attention. Make sure that's there. Does it attract attention that I don't want or not? So we have to respect all of those parameters in terms of, I would say, though, physical comfort, ability to perform well, forces that may be acting on the spine or the rest of the body because we don't have good support and the breasts are moving, tugging, reacting, that we often want to start with support and make sure that the amount of support provided by the sports bra is in proper proportion to the breast mass and to the forces on it. Now, when we start out to design for support, there have been traditionally two approaches, one being compression, which is what made the 1977 invention of the jog bra so significant. It was sort of the first time we were using strong materials just to hold the breasts close to the body rather than two separate cups, which I call divide and conquer, which kind of encircle each of the breasts, and easier to manage, two separate masses. So those are design approaches. In addition to design approaches, then we look at materials. How strong is the compression? What a little side panel that we might put into an encapsulation bra. What's that material made from? How do we create separation between the breasts through materials and design? So then it starts getting very technical. There's advantages to both styles of sports bras. A compression sports bra can probably fit more variations in bodies well. Until I had a couple of lumpectomies, my breasts used to be quite different in size. Fortunately, both of the lumpectomies were on the larger size. I had a great surgeon who I said, take a big march and even me out. So, and then also from a retail point of view, you don't have to carry as many different size SKUs like, 36B, 36C, 38C.
Yeah, you can just do extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. That's much simpler for the designer, right?
So, but those are kind of the two basic approaches, or a hybrid of the two. Might have formed cups within a compressive layer over the outside. So there's a lot of different ways from a design point of view, from a materials point of view, to approach bras. I have a rack over here. I only have probably 200 sports bras hanging on racks. I have, more packed up. But over the years, in addition to Champion sports bras, they also asked me to bring in the latest and greatest from the competing brands, the major brands, the small brands, to test, to add to our understanding of sports bra design. And I have a section of that which is like the Hall of Shame. can't believe that these are styles that actually made it into the marketplace. They're so horrible.
Will you please, when we finish this recording, take a picture of those so we can include them? I mean, it doesn't have to be
I'll
detailed,
the
but
brands.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to shame anybody other than, just to make us laugh. I think most of us don't think about all the research that goes into this and why it matters. And when I read that article, I realized how much more to it there is. Maybe that's because I am not a marathoner. I am not a team sports athlete. And so it's not something that I do in such a significant way that I would be worried about it. But when I know that I was so grateful after our conversation because I felt like somebody was really listening to the struggles I was having personally. And I was in my mid 40s when we had that conversation. So I had gone 25 years at least just dealing with it, sometimes wearing 2 bras just to try to compress and limit the bounce.
Yes.
And I remember just feeling so valued, like my voice mattered. What other women do you remember? I mean, I'm just so glad we kept in touch, but you have to have other women that you had that kind of influence with that you think of when you think of these testing times.
Sarah, there's kind of 2 groups of women that I've developed so much empathy toward and so much intention to help bring them sports bras that liberate them to be able to exercise. And one is what I'll call more of a missy body, not a really large circumference below the breasts, but large breast volumes like you had, which are very hard to fit. And there's not very many products out there available for that body, as you know.
Let me just interrupt for a second. So people, men in particular, but some women that may not be familiar with this means a 30 or 32 around the rib cage. And then we're talking about D, double D, triple D, F, those large, that's what LaJean is describing is a small
or
rib
G.
cage.
Yes. G or H.
Whatever, right. A small rib cage and very large breasts. And that's particularly uncomfortable, not just because that means that they are relatively petite, in terms of their body shape, but it also means that those breasts are crammed together on a smaller chest. So there's not the broadness to be able to carry that comfortably. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood what we're talking about here.
Yes, it's a very small space and convoluted in terms of the curves, and then also in terms of the weight that larger breasts introduce. And some of the more recent research has to do with if you do have a lot of weight out in front in this part of your body, the forces it may create both in areas of your spine, but then also on your knees, how it affects your gait,
your balance.
You're forced to take shorter steps. In a marathon, you're going to take more steps. So that's what I love about the last few years of really getting down to these women specific challenges and answering those questions. So yes, we have the petite body with a large breast mass out in front, and then just generally larger bodies. This was some years ago, maybe, 15, 16 years ago, in doing Champion C9 line at Target. The retailer, Target, said, we want you to do more inclusive workout products. And so we expanded into plus sizes. That included sports bras. It took me some months to persuade, I think because of the guilt and shame, to persuade 9 or 10 women to actually come to a focus group, which was a very emotional time for us because women with larger bodies have not been honored. They have not been valued. And yet their desires and needs to have a healthy lifestyle, which it doesn't matter what our body size, there's just all these tremendous benefits of mental, emotional, spiritual, physical benefits of being able to exercise. You can't do that if you don't have things that do not fit your body. So that's been the whole other group that has honored me with their stories. I remember the very first plus wear tester that came to the lab. She came out of the changing area with a bra on without her shirt. And she said, LaJean, I want you to know you're the first person who will ever have seen me run without a shirt on. And I'm kind of tearing up when I think about it and telling you about this, because I realized how much courage it took and what an honor it was and a privilege for me to be included in her experience. And, the respect for that and the determination that grew in me to really understand all body sizes and types and increasingly understand how to design product for all body and breast sizes and types. That was, I close my eyes and I can pull up instantly that picture of her coming out of the changing room.
And what was the result? So you did all the research on her. You put those electronic sensors on her, and she left. I know I got a couple of free things from you afterward when you had tested the bras. Yeah. What was her experience after that? And have you kept in touch with her?
Oh, absolutely. She has not only been my fit model, one of my plus fit models, which I've had 1X, 2X, 3X, 4X. And Butte was wonderful, had 2 3X fit models, and they didn't even have 1 3X fit model at the headquarters of Champion, where the tech designers were. And it's not easy for women to come in a society where the definition of what's an okay or desirable body type is just so narrow. But then I introduced Becky, my first plus tester, to another client I was developing a surgical bra for. She ended up not only being a fit model, but she has been to photo shoots. She's on their website. It just opened. I've had more than one plus fit model that, after working as a fit model, became proud of their bodies and understanding, the strength. And these are very fit women who run half marathons, things like that. So it was life-changing for me. It was life-changing for them, and continues to be. Now, in terms of really educating me at a much higher level about the differences in bodies, when, you and I might have bone, muscle, layer of fat and skin, but when you might have more of an adipose, a fat layer underneath your skin, what are the advantages of that? Probably going to have less chafing because things are able to sort of move around relative. It's like having a nice friction relieving pad under the skin. And then sort of what are the downsides, or how do we design differently so that a plus bra really optimizes his aesthetic on the plus body. So I would not have known any of this without just really my really brave. Well, I'll have to say, women don't come to my lab and take their shirt off and be just in their bra unless they have a sense of humor, a certain amount of confidence, and just plain a really cool woman.
Yeah, it does sort of lend itself to attracting a certain kind of woman.
It does. I mean, bold, gutsy, courageous. Wow. I mean, yeah, I've been so blessed.
So I keep thinking about this experience with Becky, where she walked out and said, "I've never done anything like this before. I'm kind of shocked that I have agreed to do this, but I'm in." And then I know that you were prepared for her, but were you prepared for that? And did anything really surprise you about the experience with this woman, whether it was the physical aspects, being surprised by things, or the emotional context of it?
I realized that I didn't really automatically know how to be inside that body, inside that head. I'd never been a receiver of the kind of prejudice and judging and negativity that she and my other plus testers, when I did my first focus group and having like 10 women together in the room, and there were tears and we were holding hands. We weren't, I mean, it was an extremely emotional experience. And even then, Sarah, because I've always been, kind of this scrawny person, I'm not sure that I ever, that I don't have the emotional damage that girls in our society and women in our society come up with. I have a granddaughter who's 4, and I just love it that my daughter and her husband are so determined that my granddaughter, now I have also a 2-month-old granddaughter, are not going to grow up with stigmas around their body size and shape. There's some little more distant family members that they even guard, kind of keep them away because they know in previous generations the negativity and the comments and that's been damaging. It's really hard to raise girls right now, but it sure is getting better. So I've been working with women who either kind of before a transition, where there's more product, there's more respect, kind of before and after that. I'm just absolutely loving my 30-something daughter and her friends who live in a completely different, more positive body environment in terms of positivity, and not making a skinny body as the most desirable one.
That's really hopeful and optimistic given our current kind of attacks on women and our choices. Yeah. Wow. I'm so glad to hear that. And I've experienced that in some ways too, the difference now in the young women that I work with. My assistant that I adore, Chinook, she now, after years of working with me, says, when I invite her over or something, she'll say, "No, thank you." And I'm like, you've come such a long way, because, a few years ago, she would have had some excuse or she would have felt compelled or obligated. And now just the no, thank you. I'm like, you are finding your voice.
Yeah.
And It took me, she's in her mid-20s. It took me well into my 40s to be able to just say, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So things are changing. And I think you and I are modeling what we want to see and what we hope to have our younger generations experience. So I'm just going to thank you from my heart to yours for sitting in that room and holding space for those women's stories.
Yeah. They're my
You're
heroes.
right. And we will never know what that's like. We just won't. And we'll never know what it's like to be a woman in that kind of body or a woman of color experiencing such a different lived experience.
Well, Sarah, I just want to tell you one quick story about where I got caught in that. I was for Champion. I was at Run Disney. I did a fashion show. We had a booth in the trade show there, and a woman who came to my fashion show sat on the front row, larger body. I'm like 5'3". She was about my height, weighed about 100 pounds more, and she came down to the booth to be measured and fit. So we had 2 styles that came. One of them came in the size that I measured her to be. It was like a double D, I think probably a 44 double D. And then the other bra only went to a 42 double D. But she liked it better. So she said, I think I'm going to wait and buy it after I lose a little bit more weight because I really like it better. And so I said, oh, well, how much? I was curious. I said, how much weight have you lost? And it was like 110 pounds. She had been in the 300s down to the 200s. And I was like, man, I was judging her. And being curious, I said, well, what's been your secret? She said, well, I've been active. I started eating clean. And I also had been judging her. She's probably here just to run like the little 5K at Run Disney. No, she was doing the half marathon with her husband, not the full marathon. And I felt I was so excited for her, but I was just, wow. It's like I was so judging. I had so many preconceptions about who she was, why she was there, why she was her body size. And I said, I want your autograph. I said, you were just so awesome.
Inspiring.
That was such getting caught in my own prejudice. That was such a lesson for me. I'm not proud of that, how I reacted to her, but I'm so grateful that I had that experience with her just to understand still what was going on deep inside of me, or not so deep inside of me, I should say.
But that's the thing is I keep, every once in a while, I do the same thing, right? No matter how hard I work, sometimes the first message in my head is really judgy, and I'm mortified by it, just like you were.
Yeah.
But somebody told me years ago, I was interviewing her on my podcast, that one of her professors once said, there's this intrinsic bias. You grow up with bias. You can't not grow up with bias in some way. And he said that your first thought, you are not responsible for. You're not responsible for that. You are responsible for every single thought after that.
Oh, I love that.
And it's liberating because you can stop punishing yourself. Being mortified is just fine. I think that is a really good response to our own judgment and those voices in our head that are so cruel and not who we want to be and how we want to be experienced. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah.
So I love this story so much about running into this woman and asking her just the right question so that you could hear the story that would change your mind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's turn this around and wrap up, come back to where we started. You get this Golden Fleece Award and you double down. Like, I know when somebody gets upset with me about a truth that I'm sharing, I think, oh, I just hit a nerve. That's good. If I'm not hitting a nerve, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
Right. Making them think about things a little differently. But it also makes me think about how I'm presenting it.
Yeah.
So here you are, how many years later? 40 years later. It's the anniversary of this experience. You just had this huge article in Runner's World featuring you and your history and your research and all the impact and influence you've had. What's next? Like, when you see yourself in the future, what does that look like? What are you working on now to get to the next thing?
I gotta tell you, I love this question so much. I went on to do my PhD research on protective sports bras for contact sports. In 1991, that thesis sat for a while, did a little work with a client. A lot of years passed, and now let's fast forward to 2025, where we have contact sports for women, rugby. I read this morning, not just flag football for women, but full contact football for women. All of this participation, women participating at a much higher level, finally beginning to get the injury research, articles, data collection. What's the injury rate in this sport? Understanding that body contact injuries are the number one source of injuries to the breast, and seeing the injury surveillance, seeing new products, seeing women really wanting the opportunity to go out and play super hard without risking contact to the breast and injury. This is a big deal, not just because it hurts, but the kinds of injuries in terms of edema, inner tissue problems that can maybe later show up on a mammogram as questionable, that would need to be followed up with a biopsy. We're sort of understanding the long-term effects. We're also understanding that a lot of this is preventable with the right product. So literally within the last 2 weeks, I've reconnected with a former client who has been in the breast protection product area to start working on looking at a new patent, new products, really new ways of communicating with women and reaching out. So I'm seeing I turn 75 next week, but I see the next 10 years working in protective sports bras for women. Just, things that I have behind me from previous projects, like the bright green and bright pink cups. That's a tongue twister. And reading through new patents, going back and rereading my 1991 dissertation. And it's like, whoa, this is still so fresh and relevant. This is good stuff you wrote, LaJean. So yeah, absolutely. This whole new window. And then also continuing my work in breast health, post-mastectomy bras. I also have just, some couple smaller sports bra clients that were doing some interesting new things. But I know what my passion is going to be going forward. It's going to be protective sports bras. Every girl and woman can perform at the highest level with the least pain, the least complications.
Oh, LaJean, I just got a chill up my spine. That is so exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that great news.
Great news.
Amazing. You were so far ahead of the game.
Yeah. And, that's interesting you say that, Sarah, because I was on a Zoom last week with my former client who's in New Zealand and talking about a new project. And it's like, we were just way too far ahead of our time back in 2008 when we were working together. And now is the time. And I've been I follow a great newsletter called The Gist, which is everything women's sports on the business side, participation side, sponsorship deals, whatever. And I tell you, you would not believe, not just the participation, but the money, the new teams, the new leagues, opportunities for women to stay active in their sport post high school, post college. It is so exciting. And as a person who the year I graduated college was the year of Title IX, the legislation that mandated equal opportunities in education, including sports for women, to see us, coming up on the 50th anniversary of the invention of the sports bra in 2027. Wow, so much has happened in my lifetime, and I've been part of it all.
Well, I love that you're looking at it that way. It's very pragmatic of you, because I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, it's taken 51 years since Title IX. 51 years to get here. And the thing that really grates is I think I'm 55 now. I was 4 years old when my mother finally had the right to get a credit card without her husband's signature.
Yeah.
And we are going backward. But okay, last thing I'm going to mention is the article that I found recently on RaymerStrength.com. It's Raymer Strength and Rehab. And this article, I'll include the link in the show notes associated with this podcast, says that less than 9% of studies focused exclusively on female athletes. So your Golden Fleece Award for studying a woman's athletic body was what year?
That was 1985.
1985. And here we are in 2025, and less than 9% of studies are focusing exclusively on female athletes. And as you've heard from this entire conversation, women's bodies are different. Women athletes' bodies are different.
Yep, absolutely. And here's what encourages me so much. And I've always been an athlete in spite of everything. I had to start playing girls rules basketball where you couldn't run full court, etc. I never stopped. But what I see now and this is from Title IX, what had to happen, more girls getting opportunity in high school, in college, eventually enough really great college players to start pro leagues like the WNBA, and now have women who were girls and benefited by Title IX who played at the college level go into the WNBA, who are now circling back, coaching at the college level. So the players coming out of college and university going in the WNBA are immediately at so much of a higher level. And of course, having the pro teams means there's money, higher participation rates, means that all the sport brands become more interested in investing in women, in actually sponsoring athletes or leagues, all of that. So it has really taken time for this evolution, which I will admit is driven a lot by money now, but it's still opening many doors to participation, which are all good. So to see this happen, I'm so encouraged this is not a trend that's going to go away. And that the funding on women's sports, I have, a great research paper in front of me here that was funded by my protective sports bra client, studying contact breast injuries among female athletes. So more and more, whether it's a Nike athlete, whether she's trying to break a certain record, so they develop special shoes and gear for her, finally there's the recognition that women consumers of athletic products is legit. It's going to stay. And we support that through research and understanding those differences in women's bodies and bringing them the products that are gender specific to helping them succeed.
I love it. Totally inspired. I've had all the hairs on the back of my neck have gone up at least 3 or 4 times in the conversation. LaJean, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. And for our listeners, what do you recommend in terms of following you, following the research? You mentioned a particular, a women's, is it a sports magazine or newsletter?
Probably the best way, and to find out more about my background and have links to all my social media, which at the moment I'm not doing very much on until my kitchen remodel is done, but is just www.drsportsbra, drsportsbra.com. When you go to my little website, you'll find those links. There's also an opportunity to send me a message directly through drsportsbra.com if you have a specific question that I can answer for you.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Sarah, thank you for having me and giving voice to my experience and anything I might be able to say that helps active women, which I know is a passion for both of us.
Yes. All right, listeners, it's your turn, whether you are a woman or a man who supports and loves women. What gear can you ensure that they have to be successful? Yes, a sports bra, exactly the right sports bra to encourage a woman. That is a good start. I think a lot about something my husband says often, which is, if you're going to start playing guitar, don't go buy a cheap one because it won't sound good and you'll give up. The same thing goes for anything you want to do. Make sure you have the gear that will set you up for success, whether that means a great sports bra or a close friend, whether that means the right hiking boots or a passport. You have to have the right gear before you can step out of your comfort zone and do exactly what you were meant to do. Thank you for listening.
You must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.